So with today's class session, we're going to get started with the site plan. And I'm just going to bring this over onto the screen so that you can see it is the same site plan that was used for the AutoCAD drawing. We have all of the dimensions here, so you can reference that just like I will as I draw out or model out the site. Let me move this out of the way, and I'm going to launch SketchUp over here. And the last time I launched it, because it initiated for the first time, it took a little bit of time, and I'm going to see just how long it takes now. Shouldn't take as long. And I'm on the virtual machine here, so that may have something to do with it. If you're running it on your home computers, it should load quicker. And here is SketchUp. And just like we did the last time, we're going to select architectural inches. So I'm just going to click on the thumbnail here. And just be patient, let it load. It should remember my settings, the way I set up the interface from the last time I used SketchUp. I'm just going to give this one click. It says it's not responding. That's typical. It's okay. It is launching. And I think what I'll do is I'll pause the recording while that's working. All right. It's like almost immediately when I hit pause, it just popped onto the screen. So my interface looks the same, which is great. This is what I wanted to see. So my icons, my toolbars, everything is where it should be. And we're going to get started with a new model here. So make sure that you are saving as the file name. And in this case, we're simply going to refer to this as our first initial last name. And we're just going to call it building. I know that this drawing that we used before, I'm sorry, not building, my apologies. We're just going to call it site. So this was called X site because we were externally referencing it into another file. And in this case, we're simply modeling the site. So there's no need to put an X in front of it. So just go ahead and save it and double check. But for the most part, it's going to be first initial last name and site. So you'll take care of that, save it to the proper location, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And we'll use the same coordinates. So we'll start at 0, 0 down here in this corner. And my focus is going to be on modeling just all the sidewalks, the parkway landscape. I'm not going to put the trees in yet. And then for the buildings here, I'm going to see, we're going to hold off on that. And then I'm going to show you how we are going to bring in the conceptual masses that we made in the previous session. So we're just going to keep this really simple and straightforward, the site itself, so that we can then move on to the next step. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'll go ahead and get started with the site. Now, what I like to do is zoom out here, and then I like to orbit and have my view set up in such a way that, just to keep this oriented in a similar way here, I want to have my red axis going all the way over to the right. I want to have my green axis going up, and then the blue axis, I'm sorry, green axis going up along Y, and then the blue axis, obviously that's the true height. So if I bring this back, this drawing back, you'll see, and basically because that's 0, 0, let me just annotate this here real quick. I want this to more or less be my red axis here in that direction. And then I want this to be my green axis. just to lay this out so you know where I'm going to be starting from. So moving this out of the way, I'm just going to assume, first of all, I'm gonna create this space here. This is just a rectangle here that I'm going to draw, and it's going to be 125 feet in length by 25 feet wide. So that's where I'm going to begin. Simple rectangle there. So I'll move this out of the way. I'll come over here to my SketchUp model, and I'll start with a rectangle. So I'm going to click on the rectangle tool, and I'll go ahead and let it start at that origin point right here. And then as I move my cursor, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, it's giving me the dimension along the red axis first, and then it's giving me the dimension along the green axis. So along the red axis here, this is going to be 125 feet. And then I enter a comma. And the width on this along green axis is going to be 25 feet. And then I will enter. So just take a quick look at it. 125 feet, comma, 25 feet. Those are the coordinates for the second point. So I'll enter. And I get a relatively big rectangle. So I'm just going to zoom out. I'm going to tap the space bar. And then I'm going to hold down the shift key and click and drag my wheel mouse so that I can see everything on the screen like that. And then just to double check, you can come up here to the tape measure tool and just simply place it right at this point here. And it shows us that it is 125 feet long by 25 feet wide by 0. There's no height to this. And we're probably not going to give this a height either. So I'm just going to tap the space bar. And then I don't want to do anything else with this right now. So I'm going to triple click it. And then I'm going to right click it. And I'm going to make a group. Very important that you always make the groups. So that property is done. And then our property is the one right next to it over here. And if you want, we can go ahead and draw that. So I'm just going to pan over like this. And to draw this, I'm going to what I call cheat a little bit. And I think when it comes to architecture and using these programs, if you can find a way to cheat, please, by all means, do so. The whole point here is to be effective and efficient when modeling. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to type L, and I'm just going to place it right over here. I'm going to let it start at this endpoint. And then I'm going to constrain to the green axis. So I'm going to use my left arrow key. And I'm going to take it in the direction that it needs to go. Here, I'm just moving my cursor up. And this is going to be 50 feet wide. So I'm going to type in 50 feet and then enter. I just want that one line in there, and then I'm going to tap the escape key because I don't want to draw any more lines. And then I'm going to use my space bar. So I have the line. And then the next thing I need to do is draw a rectangle, and I'm going to take advantage of this endpoint. So I'm going to click on rectangle. I'm going to click right here on that endpoint. And I'm going to bring it right over in this direction like this. And that creates the rectangle. And then tap the space bar. Now, you think there are two lines here, but with SketchUp, it doesn't work that way. It's basically just replacing the line, or it's putting the line over it if you want to think about it that way, but it doesn't matter. It's not like AutoCAD where you're going to have lines on top of lines. That doesn't happen here with SketchUp. So then the next thing I want to do is triple click this and then right click it. And I want to make a group. And then I'll click off of it. All right, I'm going to bring the PDF over just to take a look at it. And this PDF is showing us a 2D drawing, and we're using it to generate our 3D model. So far I have these two pieces of property laid out, and it was very straightforward creating rectangles. The next thing I want to do is generate my sidewalks, and then after that, generate my parkway landscape. But before I continue, if I keep using these rectangles and not change the colors or change the materials, it could get to be a little hard to differentiate between my groups. So what I'll do, and it's a good time now to talk about the concept here of the materials. So I'm going to expand the materials here. And in the materials, it's showing me that I have a few materials. And let me just drag this down like this so I can see more of the materials. And it's showing me the different categories of materials that I have. Now, something that changed in SketchUp 25 is that I no longer have a grass material, as far as I know. Last I checked, I think they took that out, but they have something here called ground. So I'm just gonna check that out and see what we have in terms of ground. And there aren't that many choices. This is a forest floor. This is a solid. So you have to look through these categories and see what's best. And because I don't see a grass, I think I'm just going to come over here to my solid colors. Wait for just a second so it can load all of the swatches. There we go. And I'm going to pick a green color, something that leans in the direction of green. And what I like to do is I like to go with like a light green for the properties on either side of mine. And then I like to go with a darker green for my property. So I'm going to start with that first. I'm going to click on this forest shadow. One click shows me the material there. And then when I move my cursor over here, you see how it changes to a paint bucket. Now I'm simply going to add this color / material onto my group. And I'm just going to click. So it now has made that green. And then the other material or the other property, I want to change the material there too, but I'm going to go with a lighter green. So I'm going to click on this one. And then when I click on that, it shows me the preview. And then I simply click here with my paint bucket and that color is changed. Now, you're welcome to pick other colors. You don't have to match mine. This is just a personal preference, but I like to keep it, you know, green to represent grass. And that starts to help me as I start to model more information here. So I'll tap the space bar and then I'll go ahead and continue. And now I'm just going to pan over right here to this location. And I'm going to start to model the sidewalk. Now, this figure here might get in the way. You could delete it, but I want to show you another option. And that is you select it, you right click it, and you just say hide it. So it's hidden from view. It's still there though. And if I come up here to view, you can see that I can toggle so that it can show me hidden geometry and hidden objects. So if I click on hidden objects, it'll show me that this object is hidden. And look at how it's representing that because it's still hidden. And if I wanted to, I can select it, right click it, and unhide it. So I don't want to do that. I just wanted to show you how it's still there. So I'm going to come back over here to view. I'm going to turn off hidden objects. And now hiding, which is very helpful. And I can continue to model. And I'll focus on the sidewalks. So back to the PDF as an example. And here's the sidewalk. And it's showing that the sidewalk is 6 feet wide on both sides. And then there's something going on over here with the curve, and I'll get to that soon enough. But I basically just have to draw a rectangle that is 6 feet wide and then just let it extend beyond. So I'm going to move this out of the way. And just like I did before, I'm just going to start by drawing a line to help me here. So I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to click right here. And I'm going to take it out along red. And if you need to, tap the right arrow key to constrain to red. And I want this to be 6 feet. So I'm typing 6 feet and you can see the length in the lower right-hand corner. And I'll enter. And then I'll tap the space bar. And tap the escape key and then tap the space bar. And that line is 6 feet in length. To double check it, click on the tape measure, click here, start moving it over. and it'll show me 6 feet right there at the endpoint. So good. I'll tap the escape key and then the space bar, and I'll continue. So that's just giving me the endpoint that I need, and I'll go ahead and draw a rectangle. And that rectangle is going to go from this endpoint over here. And notice what it wanted to do. You see this? It wants to raise it. So it's really important here that you keep an eye on the colors. So I want to constrain it so that it is on blue here. So I'm going to use the up arrow key, and that will make sure that it's flattened. So I'll click on this endpoint, and notice how it generates that rectangle. And then I'll tap the space bar. So it's taking me out, and then triple click, and then right click and create a group or make group. And then once I make the group, since I already have my materials open over here, I should pick a material. And in this case, there is an asphalt and concrete category. And then I'm going to just hover, and that says asphalt. This one here shows me concrete, and that one is also concrete. But I'm going to go with the lighter one. So I'll click on that, and I'll select my material or my object here, give that a click, and notice how it's changed. Then if I zoom in, you can see how it starts to have that material applied to it. Let me zoom out, tap the escape key, tap the space bar, pan this over, and then let's see what I want to do next. All right, I'm going to bring the PDF back, and I have the sidewalk drawn here, and you'll notice how I'm just trying to work with rectangles, and you'll see what's going to happen in just a minute. So the next sidewalk I want to draw is this one down here along the longer portion. So that's also 6 feet wide, and it runs the whole length of the block there. So to do that, I can easily draw myself another line and then make it 6 feet. But if I do that, then I'm going to create another group, and now I'm going to have 2 separate groups. And what I really want to do is I want to have my sidewalk be all one group. So to do that, I'm going to click on this sidewalk here, and then I'm going to double click it. And when I double click, you notice it grays everything else out, and my focus is just on the sidewalk, which means that if, and I'm just doing this real quick here, if I draw another rectangle out here like that, notice how that becomes part of the group. So I want to add to the group, but I don't want to put it there. So let me undo this. Just wanted you to see that. And notice how it's also taking on that material. So that's nice. So I'll undo that, and then I'll go ahead and continue. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to type L, and I'm going to start at this endpoint, and I'm going to take it down in this direction. It's already constraining to the green axis, so that's fine. And I'm going to type in 6 feet, and then I'll enter. Notice how I don't need to move my cursor. Just type in the value. 6 feet, enter. Notice how my group is growing. And I'll just zoom out here. And if any of you were wondering, could I continue along this way? Absolutely. So if I wanted to, I can constrain to the red axis like this, let it constrain to that endpoint there, and then keep drawing here. And then you have to remember to close it out, because that line, while it is there, it's part of a different group, not this one. So I can do this. So yeah, perfect option to do that. But for me, it was quicker to draw the rectangle, but it's always good to have some options here. All right, to continue, you'll notice now how I have this area here, and let me just orbit so I can see that a little better. And now it's just a matter of drawing another rectangle, and it's going to be a square. So you can continue to draw lines, but what I'd like to do is select the rectangle tool, draw a rectangle from this endpoint over to this endpoint. So now that's closed up. And I want you to see that there are still lines here, and we need to, or I would like you to remove these lines. So tap the space bar, and then there's the line right there. You can just click on it and delete. And I believe there's another line here. It's just hard to see because of the red axis there, but yes, it's there. And then just delete that. So if I zoom out, you'll see what I did with the group. I added to the group. And now you'll notice the boundary, how it's grown. So far, so good. Now, I'm going to click off of the group just because I want to take a really good look. And it's always a good idea to just pause and kind of study what you've got going on. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is if you're working in a group, say, for example, I double click this and I really just want to focus on the group and I don't want to see anything else, you have an option. You can come up here to View. You can come down to Component Edit, and Component, very similar to a group. It just has it's a little more powerful. But a component and group are the same thing, more or less. And then you can click here where it says Hide Rest of Model. So if I click on that, notice how it hides everything. And this really lets me know that I'm in that group specifically. And then when I click outside of it, it brings everything back because I'm no longer editing that group. So that's just an option up here under View, Component Edit, and you decide when you want to hide the rest of the model and when you don't. And I switch between these often because sometimes I need to see information, sometimes I don't. So I'm going to continue. I'll leave it as is. And I'm just going to double click the group so I can get a better view of it. And now from here, what I need to do is I need to let my sidewalk more or less continue this way and continue that way. Let me take a look at the example. So I'm going to put this to the side over here. Now I'm going to bring this over. And you can see right there what it's doing. And it says that it has a radius of 15 feet. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. And then 15'6" is going to be for the curb. We'll get to that in a little bit. So I really want to get this quarter circle in there. So 15-foot radius. So I'm going to come and bring this out over here. And then pan this over like this. And then the tool that I want to use is this one right here where it says draw an arc. So I do want to draw the arc. So I'm going to click on that. And then before I start drawing anything, you'll see where it says number of sides 12. Now watch this. If I draw an arc, and I'll just start right here. I'm going to do this real quick, nothing specific. I'm going to start drawing it this way, and I'll stop right there. Just want you to see something here. There we go. All right, that's an arc. Then it says 12 segments. So if I look at this, you'll see that I've got all of these segmented areas. If you're okay with that, leave it. But if you want some higher resolution, then you can change that value. But that's the direction we're going with this. So I'm going to delete that. And I'll go back to drawing an arc like this. And then the center point, before I do that, it says number of sides 12. I'm actually going to triple that. I'm going to say 36. Only because I want something a little cleaner. I'll go ahead and enter. Now it's taken on 36, and it even shows me there are 36 sides or segments. And I'm going to start right here. I'm going to bring it out. And notice how it's showing me the length. You see that? It's increasing. So it's already constrained to red. I mean, it's following the red axis. And all I'm going to do is type in 15 feet and enter. So it'll start to draw an arc right from that point. It's got the 15-foot radius. I'm going to bring it over and notice how it shows the angle. If I wanted to, I can actually type 90 degrees, but I'm going to let it snap over here to the green axis. So that's the quarter circle, and I'll give that a click. And now if I tap the space bar and I zoom in, notice how the segments are a lot smaller, which shows it to be a little more refined. Personal preference is all. You can leave it at 12. Okay, now that I have that drawn, and by the way, remember, I was in the group when I was doing this. If you're not in the group, then make sure to double click it and you're there. Okay, what I'm going to do now is draw lines. L, enter. Actually, L already takes it. I'll start at this endpoint and just draw it straight up. And it's already on the green axis, so I'll take it. But if you're not sure, just keep going all the way up like this. And then you draw another line from here across that way. Let it hit the endpoint. See how that fills up? And then type E for erase. And you just click and drag across the lines like this. And it will erase the lines there. All set. Tap the space bar. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to click away from the objects. And I have my sidewalk. Now is a good time to save. So Control S to save. You should be all right. All right. It's common for me. I just do this a lot. I like to start putting everything together and just kind of pause for a moment, kind of study what I have going on, not rush this so that I can continue drawing and modeling. And the way I'm showing you how to do this, there are other ways to start. It doesn't matter. As long as you're practicing all of these different commands, using all these different tools, you'll be okay. So I'll bring back the drawing here as an example. And now it's time to put in that parkway landscape. And that should be straightforward enough right now. So it's just going to be a couple of rectangles. So I'll move this out of the way. And then come back over here and draw a rectangle. And this time I already have endpoints. So I'll just go from this endpoint to that endpoint. And then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tap the space bar. I'm going to triple click, right click, and make group. And then I can draw this rectangle out, make it a separate group also, but why not make it part of the same group here? So I'm going to double click and notice how I'm in the group now. And I'd like to draw the other rectangle, but I need to see my object. So this is what I mean about toggling this option on and off as needed. So I'm going to go up to view, component edit, this hide rest of model. Like I said earlier, sometimes I like to have them turned off. Sometimes I need to see them. So I'm bringing it back, and now I can use that geometry and those endpoints to draw the other parkway. So I go to a rectangle. I'll pick this endpoint here. And notice how, because I have those 36 different segments, it's ready to pick another endpoint. So this is where it's really going to be important that you zoom in and make sure that you're picking the endpoint. These programs, SketchUp, AutoCAD, they're not forgiving. When they give you these object snaps, you better pick the right one. Otherwise, it can be a little frustrating. So, all right, I was just panning over. I was holding down the shift key and the wheel mouse, and I'm just going to pick this endpoint right there. And now notice that's all part of one group. So I will go ahead and tap the escape key, tap the space bar, click off of it, and I've got my parkway. Now, I want that parkway to have the same color as this lot over here. But when I go back to my colors, I may not remember which solid color I used. So skip this, and here's what you can do. You have this icon over here that says sample paint. So I'm going to sample paint. Watch this. I'm going to go back to where I was, this asphalt and concrete. Notice what it has selected. Now, I go to sample, the paint. I get an eyedropper, and I'm prompted to click a face to load its material into the paint bucket. So I want to load this material. So I click on it. So it's almost like selecting it like you would with an eyedropper where it has that suction effect. And now I have the paint bucket, and I'm going to paint this object or this group. And when I give it a click, notice how it paints both of them because they're part of the same group. And then I'll tap the space bar and I can continue. So that's a nice thing, being able to use the sample paint option. The only way you're going to see that is if you're in this select mode. If you're in edit mode, if you have this edit tab selected, if you accidentally click on it, you're not going to see it. It's going to go away. So make sure you're in the select tab. All right. Again, good practice to save. So Control S should be helpful. So I'm going to take a look at my example again, the drawing. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and I'm going to pan this up for a second. So you'll notice that, we have one property over here to the bottom or to the south of our property. We have another property there. We have an alley, and then the sidewalk continues. So I want to make sure that I model more than what I'm showing here. So we'll get there. But the next thing I want to do is drop in my curb over here. And this is where I'm going to start to introduce a bit of thickness. So let me move this out of the way. I just wanted to take a look, and it shows that the curb is 6 inches thick. And then the depth on it, because this is a 2D drawing, it doesn't show a depth. So we're just going to assume a depth of 6 inches as well. Or you can change it to 4 inches or 8 inches, whatever you'd like. Maybe take a look outside your house and see just how deep that curb is going to be. All right. And that has to wind itself all the way around. And I'm just going to assume we're going to stay away from getting too detailed here. And I know that curbs should be ADA accessible. I get that. And it's important to always think about that. But what we're modeling here, we're learning how to model our objects. So I'm just going to hold off on that. All right. So what I'm going to do is put in the curve, and I'm going to show you a new tool here. And I'm going to get a little sophisticated on you. Now, let's see if this will work. I would like to, let's see. I want to draw my curve over here. So let me do this. And I'm going to orbit. And I want to look at this almost flat here. And I want to come over to this endpoint. And I really want to zoom in because this line is only going to be 6 inches. So I'm going to click on line. And I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to bring that line out along green. Yes. And it's going to be 6. So typing in 6 and enter. And again, like I said, it's a pretty small line compared to everything else we've drawn. And now what I'd like to do is bring this line down. So let me zoom in a little bit more and notice how it says on blue axis. And the answer is yes, because I want to drop this down. So I want to drop it down 6 inches. So I type in 6 and enter. And then I can take it back along green, not red, along green. And if you want to make sure it constrains to green, tap the left arrow key. And then I want it to line up right here with this endpoint. And then I'll go ahead and give this a click like that. All right. So let me tap the space bar and you'll see how it is basically perpendicular to the other surface that's there. And that's what I wanted. I'm just going to pan around here so you can take a good look at that. There we go. And what I'm going to do is use a tool here called Follow Me. And Follow Me is basically going to take this and just extrude it all the way back. Now I could do this. It's already selected. I can type P for push pull and just push it all the way back there. But I want you to try Follow Me because this is a straight line here, a straight run, and it's just easier to practice Follow Me with that. So I will tap my space bar. And in order for Follow Me to work, I need a path. So I need to draw a line here. I'm going to zoom this out for a moment and type L. And I'll start here. Sorry, zooming back in. Click here, and I'm going to take that line straight back. Let me pan over. Keep panning. Coming over here. And put it right there on that endpoint, like that. And then tap the escape key. So why do I need that line, even though it looks like there's already one there? Please remember that that's part of a group. So here, I'll tap the escape key on the space bar. If I click on this group, I'm going to right click and hide it. And I want you to see what I'm left with, right? It's just this surface and then this path. So I'm going to do this. Just trying to get it as much on the screen as possible so you can see it. There we go. And here I go. This is the icon to use. It's right here. It's the follow me. And like it says, extruding a face along a path of edges. So I'm going to click on that, follow me. And then it says, click the profile that you want to extrude. By profile, they mean the surface. So this is the profile right here. I give it a click. And then it says, move cursor along the desired extruded path. But notice how it kind of finds that path already. And I'm just moving my cursor. You see this? It's just following it. And sometimes if you move your cursor in an odd way, it will actually go all the way back. And I'm not sure how I did it the first time. Just happened by accident, but I'm just going to take it all the way over. And here's where you can pan over. Just follow it all the way to the end like this. And then once it touches that end, give it a click. And you've now extruded that surface along that path. And then spacebar, triple click, right click, make group. And if you want, go ahead and pick concrete. And this time I'll pick a dark concrete. Just to differentiate between the two different ones that I have material. So there, that one's a little bit darker compared to the other, I think. All right. Tap the spacebar. And I'm going to click off of my object. And I really want that parkway back now. So I'm going to come up here to view. And I'm going to say hidden objects. Please show me those hidden objects. And when I see it, I click on it. I right click. And I say unhide it. And then I go back up to the view. And I say turn off hidden objects, which is just that one 2D figure. And then I will orbit this way. And then I'm ready to continue. All right, so now what I need to do is let this curve continue to run, and I want it to continue to wrap all the way around. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to refer to as just getting a little sophisticated here. When I have lines in my project and arcs and all of this, I might as well borrow some of that geometry. So I want to continue to have this surface just be followed and follow that path. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to double click on my group like this. And then I'm going to simply click on the edge here. And see how it highlights the whole edge? That's what I want. And then I'm going to come up here to edit. And I'm going to say copy that arc. So it makes a copy and it puts it into the Windows clipboard. And then I'm going to click off of that. Now, I'm going to go into my group here that represents the curve and give that a double click. And then watch this. Let me go to view and I'm going to say component edit. Let's hide the rest of the model. I want you to see this. Now, I'm going to go back up to edit and there's this nice option where it says paste in place. So I click on that and notice how it placed it exactly into the exact same location, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted. So I'm able to then copy that and I'm going to use this now as a path. So let's see if this is going to work because I have a surface there and then I have a path over here. So I'll click off of that and now it's all part of the same group as well. So what I like to do is I like to try and capture the entire path first. So I'm going to click on extrude, or I'm sorry, follow me. It says click on the profile. I'll click on the profile here. and then it says move cursor along the desired extrude path. So here we go. And notice how it's following it. You see that? And I just have to guide it. So I'm guiding it, and when I get to that endpoint, I click. And it's placed it in. Now, that's great. And what I could have done is right from go, I could have selected all of those edges, brought them over, copied them, pasted them separate, and done this at one shot. Now, I do want you to be mindful. If I zoom in here, you'll see that there's just some really interesting things going on. Notice how, in order to do that, it had to kind of separate it out a little bit. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter for what we're doing. But if you're anything like me and you want this to kind of be perfect, if you will, I'm just going to come over here and draw a line. I'm going to connect this endpoint to that endpoint. Tap the escape key. I'm going to connect this endpoint to that endpoint. And it's not giving me anything yet. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm getting real close in there. So these things will happen. It's no big deal. I'm going to see what happens if I draw a line from here to there. That closed that area up. And then from here to there. And then from here to there. See how it generates that new surface? And then I'll just come down over here. But like I said, for what we're doing, it doesn't really matter. See, I was able to fill that up. And then sometimes, let's see if I type E for erase, I might be able to erase the extra lines. No, it got rid of everything. So don't do that. It's okay. Sometimes the better thing for me to have done here was to just get the lines in there and just do one full follow me all the way around. But that's all right. This is minor. So I'll tap the escape key and then space bar and then come around this way. And I'm still in the group. And let's see, I'll go ahead and click outside of it like that. So it's really interesting, and this has a lot to do with the 36 edges that I have. Maybe the point didn't meet or the segment didn't end exactly at a 90-degree angle. That's going to happen. That's all right. So I'll just see what happens because now I want to continue extruding in this direction. So I'm going to see if I can take this surface or this, yeah, this face right here. If I type P for push pull, it should go straight. Looks like it is going straight. So I'm going to zoom out here for a moment. Actually, let me tap the escape key first. And then the space bar, and then just click off of it. All right. And my system's running just a little slow right now. Make sure you save your file. All right. So see, I could extrude all the way out there. And I know that the distance is 25 plus 50, so 75 feet. So let me just come in here, give it a double click. P for push pull, click on it here, move it in this direction. I'll type in 75 feet, enter, tap the space bar, zoom out, click off of the object, and notice what it did. Put it in there at an angle. So that was not the answer. That's all right. Edit, undo, close. Edit, undo, push, pull. So I'll just draw a rectangle over here and just take it across. Or this is a really good opportunity to show you another way I would do this. Watch this. I'll draw a line from here, bring it out, 6, enter, and then space bar. Yeah, it's a pretty short line compared to the long lines I've drawn so far. So I'll draw a rectangle now from this endpoint. And I'm doing this on purpose because you're going to find yourself zooming in and zooming out, getting into really small, tight spaces just to accomplish the goal. And I'll put it right here. And then I type P for push pull. I bring this straight down, let it constrain to that edge, give it a click, and then tap the space bar. And now what I've basically done is I've created these objects over here, but they're separate from my group. But watch, triple click, and instead of making a group out of it, I'm going to come up here to edit, and I'm going to cut it. Just remove it from my model. And then double click my group. And when I have that isolated, I'll go to edit and I'll say paste in place. Brings it in right where I wanted it. I still have that gap, but I'm going to ignore it for now. It's not a big deal. I'll zoom out and I'll click over here. And that gives us that corner based on the dimensions that you had. And I'll zoom out and then I'll pan over like this. There we go. So that's it. But we're going to embellish this just a little bit more. We have the basics there, but watch. I want to show you some more options here in SketchUp. So I want to get the alley and I want to get the opposite side in there. So to continue, I'm going to come over here on my model and I'm going to pan. I'm going to orbit this way. So I know that this surface here, it should also be on the other side. So watch this. I have that selected. I could, just like I've done before when I was introducing the move command, I can go ahead and type M and I can move it from this endpoint. And then once I start moving it, tap the control key and just move it right over here so it makes a copy. That's one way to do it. Done. I'll tap the escape key, space bar. You can see that. But I want to show you another neat tool. I'm going to take that and delete it. And this is, I'm using these simple surfaces as examples. And then you can practice this with models, 3D objects. So this is the surface that I really want on the other side. So in AutoCAD and other programs, it's called the mirror command. In SketchUp, it is called flip. So I basically want to flip it to the other side. And that tool is right here. This is the flip. It says flip or mirror selected entities. So right now I just have that one entity selected. So I'm going to click on flip. And notice how it's showing me the three axes, red, green, blue. And I want to flip this along green, but it's putting it right in the middle of the group. And I want that green axis to be right in the middle of this piece of property. So because I want to copy, I'm going to tap the control key first. So give the control key one tap and notice how you now have a plus sign. Great. I know it's going to make a copy now. And then what I'm going to do is hover right over the green here. Once it's highlighted, I'm going to click and drag it. Click and drag and bring it over so it finds the midpoint of this piece of property right there. You see how it says midpoint? And then release the mouse. There is the copy. And I need to move my cursor out of the way, and it's giving me all these other options. I'm going to ignore them and then go ahead and tap the space bar. So that's the flip or mirror command. So that's nice. And then I do want the property to, kind of keep extending over. And I want to show at least another 10 properties. The city block is pretty long. So one thing I could do is I can take this group here, I could double click it, and I could take this edge right here. I have it selected, type M, and just move that over and just keep going, you know, by increments of 25 feet. So it could be another 50, another 75, another 100, and so on. I could do that. Easy enough to do. But I want to show you these commands. So I'm going to tap out of that. And also, just so you can see here, I'm going to go to View, Component Edit, Do Not Hide the Model. There we go. So tapping the Escape key and the space bar, let's get back out here. I want to take this object and basically just duplicate it at least another 10 times over. So go and use the move command. So it's M, and I click on the endpoint here. And then I'm going to start moving it. When I see it move, I tap the control key. And now it's moving. And I would like it to constrain to green axis, so left arrow key. All right. Now here's where you have to do things in a specific order. You're going to click on this endpoint. When you click on the endpoint, do not move your mouse. Do nothing other than type. Use the asterisk key. That's the one that is located above the 8. So you probably have to use Shift 8. If you have a number pad on your keyboard, the asterisk is going to be over the 9 over on the right-hand side. So asterisks, and you'll see that in my text box there. That's the distance. We're basically saying multiply this. And I'm going to say multiply it by 10 more. So 10 times and enter. So it made 10 copies all the way across. Done. One more time. Edit, undo the array. And I'll start from scratch. I select my object. I type M. I pick the endpoint. I start to move it. When I see it moving, I do want it to constrain to green or whatever axis you have. So constrain it to that axis. Then tap the control key. You know it's going to make a copy. Pick the endpoint. So give it a click and then asterisk, which means multiply by 10 times. Enter. And that's how you get the copies. And this is what SketchUp refers to as an array. So that will extend it further. And when it comes time to drop in my building and put in trees, you can see that I'm going to have a lot of property there, which is nice. Now the question is, what about my sidewalk and my parkway? Well, easy enough to increase in length. So I'm going to tap the space bar, and then I'm going to double click on the sidewalk. I have an edge right here. I'm just going to take that edge, type M to move it from this endpoint all the way over and let it follow, pan over some more, and let it follow all the way to this endpoint, and then give that a click. Tap the space bar and click outside of the group. Done. You've just extended the sidewalk. Time to extend the parkway. So I'm going to do this. And I want you to get comfortable zooming in, zooming out. And then I'm going to double click the parkway group. I'm going to select this endpoint, type M, move it from this endpoint all the way over to that endpoint. And I know it's just one endpoint. I don't have to worry about an arc and small segments. So I can stay this far out. And when it shows me endpoint, I give it a click. Then I tap the space bar and I click away from that. And then I need to extend my curb. So to do that, I'm going to come over here, zoom in real close. I have to, I have no choice. Double click on it. And then I'm going to select that face. And instead of push pull, I'm just going to move it. So I'm going to type M, just like I've been doing with the other surfaces there. And I'm just going to move that face out. And I do have to zoom pretty far out, pan over, and let it find this endpoint. And it's the only endpoint in the area, so I give it a click. And then tap the escape key. And I'm going to zoom in here just to make sure that it is right where it should be. And the answer is yes. Pretty good. Zoom it out. Spacebar. And then click outside of the group. And let's go back over to this side. Okay. I need to add my alley, and the alley is 15 feet wide. And the alley is going to come all the way out here, stop the parkway. So And also there's not going to be a curb there, and we'll get to that eventually, but for now we will just put it in and just lay it flat. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw the line from this endpoint out, follow the red axis there, 15 feet, enter, and then tap the space bar and zoom out. So that's the width of the alley. And now I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Let me orient this in a way that's going to be helpful. So I'll draw the rectangle now. I'll use that endpoint, take it all the way over here, and give that a click. Spacebar, triple click, and then give it a, I'm sorry, triple click, right click, make a group, and then give it a material. So I have asphalt and concrete. So alleys, some alleys are asphalt, some are concrete, whatever you decide, your choice. And just to see things a little different here, I'm going to pick this asphalt and I'll just apply it right there. Okay. So that's the alley. And now one more thing to do, actually maybe a couple, but we'll get there. What I'd like to do is I'd like to have all of this information flipped to the other side. And all of these are individual groups. So I can sit here and pick all of them individually and try to mirror them, flip them. But watch what I'll do. I'm going to window everything minus the alley. So see where I'm stopping? It's not including the whole alley, so it won't select it. So I'll just release my mouse now and see how it's picked all of the objects. And it shows me 16 groups are selected. I'm going to right click that and I'm going to make a group. So yes, you can do nested groups here. So I'm going to make a group out of the 16 groups. And the reason for that is because it'll be so much easier to just pick one group and flip it over to the other side. So I have that selected. I come up here to flip, and then I need to pick the correct axis. It's going to be the red axis. I want to make a copy to the other side, so I'm going to tap the control key. And then see how it highlights the red? That's what I want. But just let me get in there a little bit closer because I want to make sure I pick the midpoint of the alley. So I position myself, orbit myself in the better spot here. So it's still going to make a copy. So I'm going to click on the red axis and it's going to be a click and drag. Click and drag, bring it over and let it find the midpoint. There's the midpoint, and then release the mouse. And you got yourself a copy on the other side. Tap the space bar and then click off of it. And we got ourselves almost a city block there. Now, they're groups, but I don't need them to be a group anymore. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to right click and say explode. It's going to explode this group back down to the individual groups. So explode that, click off of it. And now when I click on any one of the objects or any one of the groups, notice it's all back to one. And then I'm going to take this one. I'm also going to right click that and explode. And then click off of it. And then this property, I'm just going to click on that and delete it. And then these are all 25 feet wide. So I have this one selected. I'm going to type M for move from this endpoint. Move it over, tap the control key. It's going to make a copy. I want it to be 25 feet over. So I type 25 feet, enter, and then asterisk times 2. So I want 2 of these, enter. And I have 2 properties there to make up for, or to equal the one that I have. And then tap the space bar, zoom out, and you've got yourself the site drawn out. Control S. And then one last thing to do, and that is to show the street, because right now this is floating and we don't want to do that. We want to make it look like we're at the um, site and we're going to have a street over here. But I'm going to do this real simple, real straightforward. And I know I want my street to be at least 30 feet wide. So, and I know I want my street to kind of drop below my curb and my sidewalk here. It's got to start down at the bottom. So I'm going to type L. I'm going to start right here. I'm going to take it out 30 feet. Enter. That's a line, and then I'll tap the escape key and the space bar. So that's 6 inches lower. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle from here all the way over to this side. And yes, use the up arrow key to constrain to blue axis and let it pick that endpoint right there. I'm going to leave it gray for now so you can see this. So I have that done. Now I could triple click, make a group, and then add to it, but I'm going to do all this a different way. I'm going to draw another line from here, that endpoint, take it straight out. It is constrained to the axis I want. Type in 15 feet, space bar, draw another rectangle, and it's going to go from this endpoint over to this endpoint. There we go. And then I'm going to draw rectangle again from this endpoint over to this one. You see how all of them now are connected. I'm going to tap E for erase. Let's get rid of this line, get rid of this line. And then space bar, and then triple click, and then right click and make a group. And here's how I'm cheating. If I look at this from the underside, notice how it's running basically underneath the sidewalk there. It doesn't matter. Not for what we're doing. You see that? I just wanted to make sure that I had something there to represent the street. And now I'll go ahead and find a material. So let's see, we've got asphalt. I'll try this asphalt and click on it. That's a little dark for me. Maybe I'll go with an asphalt light like that and give it a click. And that might be better. Pick whatever you'd like. It'll be fine. And then when you're getting ready to compose the final scenes and all that, we're going to get a building on here and all that. You can always make the street wider. I'll go ahead and do that now just to show you what I mean. I'm going to tap the space bar. I'm going to give this a double click so I can edit my group. I'm going to pick this edge. I'm going to type M for move. And I'll just move it from here out. And I'll just add another, let's say 20 feet. I'm going to constrain it to red. I'll just type in 20 feet. And then tap the escape key, tap the space bar, and then click off of it. I may need to have more street there. And if any of you would like to be bold, you could figure out how wide a street is, and then you can always take this entire block and mirror it to the other side, and then do the same thing and mirror it to this side, and it starts to look like a neighborhood. Not that you need to, but if you wanted to practice and you wanted to have a little fun with it, you certainly could. All right, make sure to save, and that's going to be the site that we're going to be using for our building. So we need to add conceptual masses, and we then need to add our building. We're going to do that by bringing in what are called components. We'll talk about that later. But for now, this is the site. It will need some trees. That's the entourage. That'll get added later, but this is a really good start right now. All right, that should do it. Make sure to save.